This is VOA News. Via remote, I'm Jeff Custer. French President Emmanuel Macron said Tuesday that while he sees a path towards de-escalating the situation, it could take months to resolve the crisis stemming from Russia amassing 130,000 troops and equipment along its border with Ukraine. Macron spoke with reporters in Kyiv following meetings with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, a day after lengthy talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Macron said, "You must not underestimate the tension that surrounds the situation that we're living through and its unprecedented nature." He said he did not believe the crisis could be resolved in a few hours of discussions. But the French leader did say his discussions with Putin had helped ensure that no further escalation of the standoff between Russia and Ukraine and the Western alliance supporting the Kyiv government would happen. Following the meeting with Zelensky, Macron said he believes there are concrete, practical solutions that will allow us to move forward, but that the crisis is not over. Earlier Tuesday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said there were seeds of reason in proposals Macron had made to Putin. Peskov, however, rejected suggestions the crisis had been resolved, saying, "So far, we don't see and feel the readiness of our Western counterparts to take our concerns into account." NATO has rejected Moscow's demands to end its expansion into Eastern Europe near Russia and eliminate the possibility of Ukraine, a one-time Soviet republic, from joining NATO. The West says it is willing to negotiate over the positioning of missiles in Eastern Europe and NATO troop maneuvers. Meanwhile, as the French and Ukrainian leaders met in Kyiv, foreign ministers from Austria, Czech Republic, and Slovakia joined their Ukrainian counterpart in Kyiv to express their support and solidarity regarding Moscow's military buildup in the area. At the joint news conference following the meeting, Austrian Foreign Minister Alexander Schallenberg said, "Security for Ukraine is our security." This is VOA News. The U.S. Justice Department announced Tuesday the arrest of a New York couple on charges of conspiring to launder billions of dollars in cryptocurrency that was stolen in a 2016 hack of a virtual currency exchange. In a release Tuesday, the Justice Department said federal law enforcement officials had also seized roughly $3.6 billion in cryptocurrency to hack as Bitfinex, a virtual currency exchange whose systems were breached nearly 6 years ago. The Justice Department said the stolen cryptocurrency, valued at $71 million at the time of the theft, is now valued at $4.5 billion. In the statement, the Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said it represents the Justice Department's largest financial seizure ever and shows that cryptocurrency is not a safe haven for criminals. She said the defendants attempted to cover their tracks by laundering the stolen funds through a labyrinth of cryptocurrency transactions that law enforcement officials were able to decipher. The officials say 34-year-old Ilya Lichtenstein and his wife, 31-year-old Heather Morgan, were arrested in Manhattan early Tuesday, and were scheduled for an initial court appearance later in the day, where they face federal charges of conspiracy to commit money laundering and conspiracy to defraud the United States. The UN Human Rights Agency said Tuesday it fears heightened ethnic tensions between rival herders and farmers in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo may erupt into more violence following deadly attacks in the region last week. At least 62 internally displaced members of the Hema ethnic community were killed and 38 injured when their camp was attacked by an armed group February 1st. Fighters from the Cooperative for the Development of Congo, or CODECO, staged a nighttime raid on the Plano Savo displaced persons camp in the DRC's Ituri province. Human rights spokeswoman Lisa Throssell said all the victims in the camp of 24,000 were either shot or attacked with machetes and knives. It's only the latest in a string of devastating assaults on the displaced persons sites by CODECO, which is mainly composed of Lendu farmers. The Human Rights Agency is calling on DRC authorities to immediately strengthen the protection of civilians in those troubled areas. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau Tuesday has condemned the disruptive anti-government, anti-COVID-19 restriction protests that have paralyzed parts of the nation's capital, Ottawa, for nearly 2 weeks. Monday, in his first speech before the Canadian Parliament since testing positive for COVID-19, Prime Minister Trudeau accused the group of truck drivers who have staged a noisy occupation of the Canadian capital of trying to blockade our economy, our democracy, and our fellow citizens' daily lives. It has to stop. The so-called Freedom Truck Convoy arrived January 29th to demonstrate against the government's mandatory vaccination order for all truck drivers.